I don't think people care as much about getting someone as they think they do. I think people care about being chosen because being chosen feels bigger than loving sometimes. It feels like proof that you're enough, proof that somebody looked at every flaw, every insecurity, everything you tried to hide from people and still decided, I want you. And I think that's why rejection hurts so much. Not because we lost a person, because sometimes it feels like we lost evidence. Evidence that maybe we were worth something. When you really think about it, people spend their whole lives wanting to be chosen. As kids, we wanted to be chosen for teams, wanted to be invited, wanted people to sit next to us, wanted friends, wanted attention, wanted approval. Then we get older and suddenly nothing really changes. The places change, the people change, but the feeling stays the same. Now, instead of wanting someone to sit beside us at lunch, we want someone to text us first, choose us over somebody else, stay, love us. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think people want to feel important because feeling important makes people feel safe. I think one of the loneliest things in the world isn't being alone, it's feeling replaceable. Feeling like if you disappeared tomorrow, everything would continue exactly the same. Like nobody would even notice enough. Like somebody else could step into your place and do what you did better. That feeling destroys people quietly, because when you feel replaceable, being chosen suddenly becomes everything. Because if somebody chooses you, it almost feels like they disagreed with every insecurity you've ever had. They looked at every flaw you had and said, no, I still pick you. And that feeling's addictive because people don't just want relationships. Sometimes people want validation disguised as relationships. And I think that's where things become dangerous. Because once your self-worth starts depending on being chosen, you stop wanting connection, you start wanting proof. Proof that you're enough. Proof that you're valuable. Proof that you're not easy to be replaced. I think that's why people compare themselves so much, especially when they like someone. Because suddenly everybody becomes competition. You start noticing things even you never cared about before. Who's funnier, who's better looking, who's more confident, who's taller, who's stronger, who gets more attention, who's better at talking. And suddenly you're comparing yourself to people who didn't even know they had a part of the competition. And that's the sad thing, because most of the time, the other people aren't even competing. You're competing against yourself. Against the version of you that keeps saying, you're probably not enough. I'm going to give you a little story. I think this is where I really understood all of this. There was this girl I cared about a lot, and honestly, I don't even think I noticed how much I cared at first. It started normally, just talking, laughing, sending random videos, the kind of thing where someone slowly becomes part of your day without realizing. And after a while, I start looking forward to hearing from her, and then eventually, I started noticing other people around her, guys who seemed more confident than me, funnier than me, people who walked into rooms and somehow everybody paid attention to them, people that seemed effortless. And I remember sitting there thinking, if I had to compete with these guys, I'd lose. Not because they did anything wrong, not because she did anything wrong, but because when you already feel imperfect, your mind starts creating competition nobody else is playing. I remember one night she took longer than usual to reply. Nothing crazy, maybe an hour, maybe less. But when somebody matters enough, your brain starts doing weird things. I started thinking, maybe she's getting bored of me. Maybe she's talking to somebody else. Maybe she found someone funnier. Maybe she found somebody better. And while she was probably just living her life normally, I was sitting there creating scenarios that didn't even exist. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't scared of losing her. I was scared of losing what her would mean. Because if she chose somebody else, in my head that wasn't just rejection, that felt like confirmation. Confirmation that every insecurity I already had about myself was true. And that's why it hurt. Not because I lost a person, but because I felt like I lost proof that I mattered. And I think a lot of people do that. I think people connect their value to other people's choices, which sounded harmless at first, until somebody leaves. Because if your value came from being chosen, what happens when you stop being chosen? People start blaming themselves. They start rewriting themselves. Maybe I wasn't funny enough. Maybe I wasn't attractive enough. Maybe I cared too much. Maybe I wasn't enough. And that's dangerous, because your brain starts treating rejection like a rating system. Like somebody looked at you and decided, no. But people aren't rankings. Love isn't rankings. Human connection isn't rankings. Because someone choosing somebody else doesn't automatically mean they were better than you. That's one of the biggest lies people believe. People say, they choose him over me, they choose her over me, like it's some competition with a winner. But people don't compete, and they're not trophies. Connections aren't math. Sometimes people just connect differently. But emotions don't care about logic. That's the problem. Because emotions aren't rational. Emotions don't say, maybe you were just compatible. Maybe you weren't just compatible. They say, you lost. And that's why being chosen feels so important. Because people aren't only looking for love, they're looking for reassurance. I think social media made this a lot worse too. Because now people compare themselves constantly. People compare relationships, looks, followers, attention, everything. You open your phone and it suddenly feels like everyone else is being chosen. Everybody else is happier. Everybody else is more attractive. Everybody else has someone. And slowly you start asking, what's wrong with me? But here's something I realized. The people who seem perfect from far away usually aren't perfect up close. Because everybody has insecurities. Everybody. Even confident people, even attractive people, even people who seem like they have everything. Everybody feels like they want to be chosen by somebody. Everyone wants to matter. I think that's why being someone's first choice feels so powerful. Because for a moment, all the comparisons stop, all the overthinking stops, all the insecurity gets quiet. Because somebody looked at every other option in the world and still looked back at you. But I think people also need to realize something important. Being chosen by someone else isn't supposed to create your value. It's supposed to add to your life, not become your life. Because if you rely on other people to tell you you're enough, you'll spend your whole life scared when they leave. And maybe that's why people stay in unhealthy situations. Because they're scared of losing the person that means losing their worth. Losing proof. Losing validation. Losing the feeling of being enough. But I think real love feels different. Real love doesn't feel like finally becoming valuable. Real love reminds you that you already were. Because at the end of the day, the right person isn't choosing between your flaws and somebody else's strengths. They aren't comparing every tiny thing about you. People aren't spreadsheets. They're feelings. Their connection. Their comfort. Their safety. And maybe that's why we care so much about being chosen. Not because we want attention. Not because we want status. Not because we want to win. But because being chosen feels like somebody looked at every hidden part of you, every insecurity, every fear, every flaw, and still stayed. But maybe the thing you need to hear most in this, if somebody doesn't choose you, that doesn't automatically mean you are lacking something, because your value was never supposed to depend on another person's decision. Because sometimes people don't leave because somebody else is better. Sometimes people leave because people change. Sometimes timing changes. Sometimes feelings change. And sometimes things just don't fit. And I think that's what took me so long to understand. I kept wanting somebody else to prove I was enough, when maybe I should have learned to believe it before it even arrived. Because if your self-worth only exists when somebody chooses you, you'll spend your whole life terrified of being unchosen. And maybe that's the real reason we care so much about being chosen. Because deep down, most people aren't looking for someone, they're looking for proof that they matter. And maybe one of the hardest things to learn is understanding that you mattered long before anyone picked you.